Hey, what's going on, guys? I hope you all are doing well today. Elliot here. Welcome back to the Fragrance Well. Today's topic is pretty straightforward. I'm going to talk about fragrance recommendations. And what I mean by that is these are fragrances that I have either recommended to people or maybe would be most likely to recommend to someone. I'm a little iffy when I recommend stuff. I pretty much usually tell people, particularly in the community, like in my YouTube comments or in Facebook groups, or if anyone's saying, hey, specifically, hey, I'm a collector and I want advice on what I should get next. I always tell them like, well, here's something maybe you can check out, but you need to sample it. You need to really find out for yourself if it's something that you want. But sometimes it's just regular people that like to wear a fragrance, but they're not trying to be a collector and they want a recommendation. So I put together a list of stuff I've either have recommended to people before or I would be most likely to recommend. And I'll go over reasons as to why, but it's a small list. I only got, just double check. Yeah, I only got 7 here. And the 7th one I actually added right before, so it was only 6. I'm not a big recommendation kind of guy, if that makes sense. But anyway, we're gonna get into it. So before we get started, as always, please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you do like the content. And remember to hit that bell icon and enable notifications so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Let's get into it. All right, let's go ahead and get it started. So the first one's gonna be coming from the House of Chanel, and this is Bleu de Chanel Parfum. Chanel Bleu de Chanel Parfum. All right, so in terms of anybody who is a collector and in the community, this would be my recommendation because I just simply think this is the best Bleu de Chanel to date. However, I would say that the Eau de Parfum is probably a little bit more versatile, but I mean, to me, this one is the best one. It's the only one I want. I have no plans to buy the other concentrations, and when I had a chance to get Bleu de Chanel or decided to get it, this is the one I grabbed. Unfortunately, it is the most expensive, but I just think it's the best one. So this one here has that great woodiness that is famous in the Bleu de Chanel line. The citrus that is kind of famous in it has been turned down quite a bit in this one, but it's still there. So there's still this fresh element, a little bit of a clean aromatic element to it as well. But primarily you're kind of getting a cedar and sandalwood combination. Same cedar and sandalwood that is prevalent in a lot of Chanel fragrances, particularly the affordable designer ones. Outside of the community, I would recommend this because I think it is a Swiss Army knife fragrance. You can use it for everything, super pleasurable to wear, super easy to wear. You're not really gonna offend anybody with this fragrance, and you can use it for anything. So anybody wanting a recommendation from someone that they either see or know is well into fragrances and they want to get into something, or maybe just get something that they maybe don't already have, this is easily a top recommendation in my mind. And I would still tell them, hey, check it out first. Another good thing about this is you can pretty much find it just about anywhere if you have department stores around. So I kind of keep that in mind as well. So once again, from the House of Chanel, this is Bleu de Chanel Parfum. Okay, next one's coming from the House of Ormond Jain. We've got Montebaco Intensivo. Ormond Jain, Montebaco Intensivo. Now, I definitely don't take the credit for knowing about this fragrance. I learned about this from Equality Fragrances, so I give all the credit to him, and his description of it, how he described it, made me interested in it, and because this was a blind buy for me, and I was blown away by it. But I certainly don't recommend that to everyone. I know what I like. I'm a collector. I buy a lot of stuff, so when I blind buy stuff, I kind of am used to the fact that if it fails, it's on me. I don't blame the other person, but also I'm pretty good at knowing what I like, and if someone describes something very well, I might take a chance on it. But this is one of my most recommended fragrances to anybody I've seen that's not a collector, but they say they want something that is different. Right now, this is kind of my top recommendation because so far I have not come across anything that even smells close to this outside of the Montebaco line, so to speak. I mean, the cooling air accord that this has, the cooling spices that are in here. The spices are really starting to come out more in this fragrance as it is macerated a little bit longer. The tobacco, the clean leafy tobacco in the dry down, and the tea accord, the calming tea accord that this has. It's masterful in my opinion, and you gotta love that cedar wood dry down that's pretty much present. For me, it's present kind of throughout the whole fragrance, primarily coming from Isogamma Super. This fragrance is very unique, and it's part of the reason why I recommend it, because they say they want something that not everybody else is talking about. Anytime I see a Facebook post where someone's like, what are y'all wearing today, or what should I check out in fragrances, I see the typical stuff, which usually is just the brand name or the house name, not a specific fragrance. I always kind of just drag this one out because people don't know about it. It's unique. So that's why it's one of the top recommendations for me right now. Once again, from the House of Ormonde Jane, this is Montebacco Intensivo. All right, next one's coming from the House of Neshane, and this is Hasavat. Neshane Hasavat. Now, this one I haven't necessarily recommended a lot, but it's one of my favorite fragrances, so I certainly don't mind telling people about it. In particular, my barber my barber smelled me wearing this one time when I showed up, and he was like, what is that? I want it. So I helped him find it, for a good discounted price. On his phone, he bought it immediately, and then the next time I saw him, he said, man, that fragrance has been killing it for me, and even the guys in the barbershop have noticed how awesome it is. So I told him, hey man, I'm glad to hear that. It's one of my favorites, so I'm glad it's working out for you. That juicy pineapple that this has, along with that sharp citrus, I think also kind of coming from bergamot, and then that kind of jasmine just hiding in the background, giving it this smooth heart, and then that oak moss. I love the stuff. I don't typically recommend this because of that oak moss, because I know that is not something everybody's gonna like. But I would still say, hey, check it out, because I think if you do like it, you'll love it. I know that's how I feel about it, so that's why I have it on the recommendations list. Once again, from the House of Neshane, this is Hasavat. All right, guys, next one's coming from the House of Mancera. This is Vetiver Sensuel. Mancera, Vetiver Sensuel. So why did I put this on the list? Well, I was kind of thinking about if someone was asking for recommendations for a niche fragrance house. More than likely, they have probably heard about Mancera. It's one of the ones most people say, hey, check them out first, mainly because of the cost. You can experience a lot of their fragrances and it doesn't break the wallet right away. And I do agree with that sentiment. I think there are some great Mancera fragrances. Now, I'll be completely transparent here. I have not experienced the majority of Mancera fragrances. I don't consider myself a Mancera expert. But while most people would probably say get Cedrat Boisé first, I would say get this one first. Personal note, I actually like this far better than Cedrat Boisé. And I don't think Cedrat Boisé is a bad recommendation, but I just think this one here offers something a little bit more balanced and unique, so to speak. Because, main reason being is because Cedrat Boisé has that similarity. I don't think it smells exactly like it, but the similarity to Avensis. While frankly, there's just tons of other ones you could lump into that that smell like Avensis. While this one here, I think, kind of stands on its own. That juicy combination of citruses, the watery, juicy combination of citruses in the top of this is masterful. And then that mint floral heart that this has is awesome. And then you just got that clean, woody, musky vetiver base. I mean, it's also a Swiss Army knife fragrance. Can work for anything. You can wear it anywhere to anything. I don't think you would really offend anybody with this. I would be surprised if you did. And also the fragrance lasts nicely. It doesn't cost a lot of money. I mean, it's like, this is a good recommendation in my mind. So that's why I put it on the list. Once again, from the House of Mancera, we've got Vetiver Sensuel. Okay, next one's coming from the House of Prada. We've got Prada L'Homme. Prada L'Homme. So this one is one I have recommended to people before, primarily as it pertained to really something to do with the job. Somebody was asking about, a fragrance they might get for, a really big job opportunity they were pursuing, and I told them, check this one out as one of the options. I think this one is a good one to go for. This one here has that iris, obviously, but it's clean and fresh and soapy, not ridiculously sweet, not ridiculously creamy, not lipstick makeup smell heavy. That's kind of the good thing about this one, because that one can be a little tough for some people. This one's a little bit more neutral in my mind. But I still think this is one of the best kind of like professional presentation, soapy, clean, job related fragrances, if that makes sense, office fragrances. So that's why I've recommended this one. And also it's one that you can usually find at a store that has Prada fragrances. Because I would also recommend Prada Amber Pour Homme, but you don't really see that too often these days. I mean, you can still find it, but I don't really see it in stores that much, where I do typically still see this one. So that's why it's a top recommendation for me. So once again, from the House of Prada, This is Prada L'Homme. All right, next one's coming from the house of Salvatore Ferragamo. We've got Aqua Essenziale Blue. Salvatore Ferragamo Aqua Essenziale Blue. So this one is one I would kind of always keep on my recommendation list, mainly because this is just easy to wear. I mean, it's easy to like. It's a little bit aquatic, has a little bit of a kind of a sticky sweetness to it, kind of making me think of syrup, but it's not syrupy at the same time. A little bit ambery. It's nice and woody. It's nice and clean. It's nice and fresh. Just an easygoing fragrance, primarily that doesn't cost a lot of money. You do have to get it from discounters, obviously, to kind of take advantage of that price advantage, because I think this is under 50 bucks. You can get a 100 milliliter bottle. I mean, that's a win-win, for somebody who's looking for something that's just kind of works for everything, but also smells really nice, has a little bit of a sexy vibe to it. It's just a good working blue fragrance that's not what everybody else is wearing also. So, you got a little bit of exclusivity with that. So that's why this one I kind of have to keep always as a top recommendation. Now, I don't know if I've actually recommended this to anybody, mainly because based off of what they were asking, I didn't necessarily think this was an appropriate recommendation, but this one has just kind of always stayed in the back of my mind as something I would recommend to someone if they're looking for a fragrance that is excellent value and is just kind of works for everything, just smells great to everybody. So that's why I have this one on the recommendations list. Once again, from Salvatore Ferragamo, this is Aqua Essenziale Blue. All right, the final fragrance for this list from the house of Tom Ford, this is Oud Wood. Tom Ford Oud Wood. So the main reason this is under my recommendations list is, number one, special fragrance for me. This is the fragrance I first got my nose on that really started to open that door to what perfumery could really be. But number two, I would say if somebody was just curious about, in oud fragrance, maybe they heard about oud, like, hey, what is this stuff? Is this the best fragrance to recommend? To kind of know what that is? No, but it is one of the easiest. Now, there are other ones out there for sure that can kind of introduce you to the world of oud, quite frankly, way cheaper than this can do. But the reason I am gonna stick with this one is, number one, it's the only one I have. Number two, you can usually find this. If you've got a department store around you that has Tom Ford fragrances, they are typically gonna have Oud Wood in stock, so you can at least go and experience it. Once again, from the house of Tom Ford, we've got Oud Wood. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for this episode. Hey, let me know down in the comments below, what is the number one fragrance you have recommended to anybody, whether it was another collector or just someone who's just curious about fragrances. Curious to see what you guys have to say. Thanks again for watching all the way until the end. Remember to be well and smell well, and I will see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.